it's never a mother's right to decide for her child what parent should or shouldn't be in the life of the child. Only her right to do that if she feels the child is at risk of harm, mentally or physically. If a mother doesn't feel that, she has no right to stop contact. Hello and welcome to MCB Unscripted, where you have got me, Charlie, Mohammed and Bella, two generations, one mic, where we talk about various topics, including things that may be a little bit more controversial. Everything we talk about is unscripted. We just post a topic together and we let our thoughts flow. So today is an interesting topic and I think it will hit quite a few people. We are going to talk about divorce, children, how it affects children, how adults can behave in divorce. We have three different opinions from a father, from a child that's been part of a breakup as well, and from a mother. So we are going to get started with this. So Bella, let me start with you, because I always seem to start with you. Do you feel you have been affected by not having a father there when you were younger growing up? I mean, you've got someone there now. You've had someone there for a while, but I mean, growing up, do you feel that that affected you?
Yes and no, because you were always both roles. So I never felt as heavy as, say, if my father left when I was like a bit older, because I was so young. It's almost like I was having this conversation with Georgia actually the other day, and it's like I can't really miss something that I've never had.
Okay.
Or something you don't remember.
No, because it's kind of something that I've never had. Whether I remember it or not, I've not really had that paternal thing in my life. Do you know what I mean? Growing up. Because mum's always been the maternal and the paternal role very well. So I've never felt that.
Can I just ask you a question? Why have I played that role well?
Because you're strong.
Right.
I think your experiences through your adolescent life has made you a very strong person. So that strength has been able to be transferred onto me and my siblings, because it's very shown we're all very strong characters. That's good and it's bad especially when you're our mum, it's very conflicting, but I think that's why you played the roles very well. But I've never really felt that there's been something missing from my life. It was a bit damaging when I was younger, and I would see all my girlfriends, I was young, with their dads and their dynamic, and it was really lovely, and I was like, oh, well, why don't I have that? But then I also wasn't mature enough, mentally mature enough and emotionally mature enough to understand. Like right now, I'm very emotionally mature, so I'm able to understand, okay, well, that's his loss, that's not, it's fine. I think I'm a great person, I'm a very strong person.
Definitely are.
So I've been, I'm not really a product of a fatherless background. I don't think I have daddy issues. I think the only daddy issues that I have is like, I'm very controlling. I think it's I'm very controlling of who leaves and enters my life, which I don't necessarily think is a bad thing, but then that leads on to rejection, and it all has this domino effects of what trauma it's giving you passively, without even me really thinking, okay, I have trauma because I've seen this or I've seen that. No, I have trauma because something's happened in my young life that has just inherently given me trauma.
Can I ask you a question? Have you heard me or felt that I've slated your, I say biological dad, growing up, that's altered your mindset?
No.
You can be completely honest.
No, I am being
prefer
honest.
that you were honest with.
I can't remember you slating him. The only time I do the only time that I can recollect is when he contacted me, a few years ago.
Yeah.
But then again, I was old enough to have my own opinion.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, there's no point. You've missed how, 13 years of my life. What's the point of you coming back now? There's no point in that.
Yeah.
So
how did you feel about that?
Honestly, I was a bit confused. I wasn't necessarily hurt.
Were you confused by me?
No, I was confused why he was coming back when he has this whole other family. I'm not hurt by it. Like, I've kind of made peace with it. I don't have a relationship with my father. That's fine. But that's just kind of, in my head, that's just how it is. That's all I've ever known. So I don't really have much to say that's heavy, because I just have not blocked it, but just made peace with it. That's just how it is. Yeah. And that's how it's going to be. And I don't feel like I have an obligation to have a relationship with him. Mm-hmm. He should feel like he has an obligation to make that relationship with me, mm-hmm. because he made his choice. And he can stick to that choice, because I don't really have any desire to get to know him as a person or whatever, want his money or nothing.
Yeah.
So that's just the way it is.
Just one other question I've got for you. How did that open up because you and Mo have a very, very close, I'm always careful how I word this, but I say he's your stepdad, but he's a dad to you. Like, you guys are so close. Do you know what I mean? How has that opened you up to having a relationship so well with him, given the fact that you've had this letdown or this situation that's happened? How has that opened up yourself to having, because you guys are really close, like, you've got your own independent relationship that I don't get involved with, you're just close, right? How has that dynamic worked, really? How have you opened up yourself to that dynamic? Did you have to open it up, or was it authentic and organically grown?
I think it was quite organic. We just got along well, and I trusted him. I think that's one thing it's given me, is a lot of trust issues. I think other things in my life has also given me trust issues, but I was able to trust him, and that trust was built over time, and I could just see that, like, he was a good character and he was a good person. Mm-hmm. So I think that made me trust him. Mm-hmm. And then we built our relationship from that. We just got along well. We're very similar. So that it was just very authentic, and we just got along well, and that was as simple as it was.
It's funny because you are actually both very similar, but I don't know if you're similar because you've grown to become similar, or whether you actually are just both similar characters. Because now, when I'm really annoyed with you, I'll actually say to Bella, how would he be thinking? What should I do right now? And if she's annoying me, I'll say to you, and you'll say to me, well, just leave her like that for now. She just needs to be like that. And I'm like, oh, okay. It's like you both just kind of get each other.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take the heat off you for a second now.
Thanks.
Talking about you. I'm going to talk about quickly, and then I'm going to come and ask you a few questions. Is that okay?
Yep.
I have, just to get a brief idea about myself so I can explain the situation, so I'm not just talking about a topic I don't know about. I have had relationships. I've had failed relationships. I've had the fathers of my children. We have a beautiful boy now, and we're in a very happy, loving family, and very, very settled, bar a few things going on, but we're very settled. But the growing up and having to, I started very young when I had my first daughter. Now, my thing with the relationships, I don't believe you ever stop a father from seeing their child. When I was younger, I may have not played that as well as I play that now, for example. But kids need both their parents. The only time I step in and I say enough is enough when it comes to a father and a child is if you let that child down 3 times. If you say I'm coming and you don't come 3 times, I'm done. Because I think that is detrimental to a child's mental health. A kid sitting by a window saying, where's daddy? And daddy doesn't turn up. You do that 3 times to a child, you're going to cause a problem. So I give a warning. If that happens again, this can't play like this. You need to change how you're thinking, or we need to pull back. And unfortunately, on 2 of the occasions, I've had to pull back. One of them being when you were really, really tiny, and, you know, he just got remarried and ran off to another country. And then before you know it, it's with another woman and this one. And it's like, that was just a complete mess. And then, but that was not without being in court for 4 years. You know, I was dragged to the High Court for 4 years because it was a high profile case, and we were in the High Court, and that was really damaging and really tough because I had 2 kids at home. I had to come home. I had to pretend that everything was okay and, oh, you know, I'm here now. Meanwhile, I was losing weight by the day because I was so stressed out, trying to be happy for a baby, happy for a 5 or 6 year old. And that was really a very tough time for me. We had houses up in Cheshire. I had to go up and down the motorway with a newborn baby, breastfeeding, a 5-year-old that had to finish school, an ex at that point who just completely left me in the lurch and didn't think at all that what would this young girl do, because I was in my 20s and I was young and really didn't know what to do. And I'd given up my life for this person. And then I'm left in a situation, but still we ended up in court. Still I allowed the access. Still all these things happened because I knew that was my role as a mum, my role as how annoyed I was with you as a person. That's completely different. I remember before we went to court one day, I was in a club and it was a big party going on. He walked up to me and threw a massive big glass of wine over me. And I was just like, what did I do to deserve that? And he was just annoyed that we were going to court. And I just remember thinking, I'm at home with your child and I've really not asked for very much and you're just so unkind. But saying that, I also have helped many of my friends through different situations because of what I've been through. And you see a lot of mums that stop the contact with the child to punish the father and because they're not happy with finances or whatever it might be. And being in that situation, it's never a mother's right to decide for her child what parent should or shouldn't be in the life of the child. It's only her right to do that if she feels the child is at risk of harm, mentally or physically. If a mother doesn't feel that, she has no right to stop contact. And, you know, in the courts nowadays, the courts are so biased towards mothers. And I never really realized it until being in court with you. And that will lead me on to asking you a few questions in a minute. But being in court, I have sat there and witnessed and listened to these lies that are told. And I'm almost thinking to myself, gosh, if you think that this person is this character, then you must think that I'm a terrible character, that I would have this man around my own children and have a baby with him. You must think that I'm completely useless. So the courts really don't have the man's back in this country at all. And it's such a flawed system. And I mean, for you being in court and, you know, and what you've had to witness and the heartbreak you've had to go through with your own children, who were a big part of our life as well. They were a huge part of our life. And I feel that, how have you felt like trying to there's 2 questions. How have you felt having to navigate through the court system and almost at the moment losing your children, and at the same time playing stepdad and dad to our son? How's that worked for you mentally? Sorry, I went a bit deep there.
No, that's absolutely
Sorry,
fine.
really
No, that's
heavy.
a very. I mean, look, how much information do you want to know? It's, to answer it simply, it's taken its toll, I would say, on my mental health. And by that, what I mean is I'm not completely falling apart. I have my days, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I have my days where I wake up and I think things are just not going my way and they're crap. And I have days when I wake up and I refuse to be defeated. And I don't mean in the sense that I'm now going to go and fight and go back to the courts and everything else as well. It's just not being defeated in the sense that I'm not going to allow myself to fall into a place where I'm going to completely have a breakdown. It's not, to answer your question, it's not an easy place to be. I think, look, just to give you an example of it, and I'm just going to be, as it's unscripted, I'm going to call it unfiltered as well. The day that we found out our son was born was also the same day or the day later when contact with my children was blocked.
Yeah.
So without sounding negative or positive or whatever, it's just how
and
it is.
Blocked by not the court. That was blocked by
the other side
deciding to block
so
it.
I gained one but lost two at the same time.
Yeah.
That's a very strange place to be.
Yeah.
Right? It's like me saying to you, for your grades, I know this is like a really silly example, for your grades, you're going to get one A star and the rest of them you're going to get Fs. Yeah, you're happy by the A star, but you're also disappointed by the Fs as well at the same time. So I think it's difficult to navigate that mentally, because you live in a place of having guilt to a certain extent. And I'm going to be completely honest with you as well, which is, look, I love having a relationship with my stepkids. I love the fact that I've got a close bond with them. You know, the fact that I can be there and be a role model, I think, right, to you guys, and be, you know, I'm not trying to fulfill anyone's role. I'm just trying to fulfill my role, which is trying to be the best example of myself that I can be in a non-fake way, right? And guide you through life, which is what my responsibility is. And at times you don't like what I have to say, which is absolutely fine. That comes with the playbook. I understand that. There's times when I say things and you think I'm being completely militant about that thing, right?
You always end up being right too.
Right. For example, when it comes to...
We've got that on camera, by the way.
Yeah, we've got that on camera, by the way. Yeah, there's evidence of that. For example, when it comes to boys and dating boys and all of that, like, if you come and ask me for my honest opinion, I'm going to be completely black and white with you. It's not because I'm trying to be militant or strict or anything like that. It's because I'm just being completely honest with you, because you've asked me from a guy's perspective, so I'm going to give you a guy's perspective. If I was going to date a girl, I'm not going to go and ask a guy for his opinion. I'm going to go and ask a girl for her opinion, because girls know girls. But that's the stepfather side to it. And then you got the other side to it as well, which is trying to navigate mentally not being able to see your kids. That's really tough. And you're absolutely 100% correct. Fighting with the court system. I mean, look, let me take a step back and let me not be biased, because my biasness comes with emotion. And I'm sure yours does too, but you're my thinking head, which is you've seen it from a woman's perspective on behalf of a guy having to deal with the courts. And that's a difficult place to be.
Very.
And it's tough. And it's very tough. You know, you've seen me at times when I've been completely okay, and you've seen me at times when I'm not okay, and times when I've been okay, you've even said to me, are you really okay? Because how can you be okay? Because you're going through a crappy period. But you have to, I think, look, you know, one thing I'll say about myself is, yes, I have times when I am not in the best of places, right? And it does take its toll. But I also have times when I pull myself out of that, and I don't allow myself to be defeated by that, because I refuse to be defeated. I've met loads of guys who have been in my position, or have had it worse, and they've left the country, or they've gone off on a crazy, you know, spree of whatever it is that they're doing. I don't know what they're doing. Maybe they're meeting loads of different people. Maybe they're getting drunk. Maybe they're doing different things. But people have their own way of venting things. And I think one of the most important ways, which I'm guessing is one of the questions that you're going to ask me at some point, is how do you ground yourself amidst all of this, is you have to find grounding somehow. Whether that be through your spouse, if you've met someone, whether that be through you self-developing, which you should always continuously be doing, yeah? Or whether that be that you find a hobby which is in a good, positive direction, and not someone who completely falls apart and starts taking drugs or drinking or doing whatever.
You know what you're saying is the pill to how to heal yourself during these situations. Yeah. But I think the key thing we're missing here is that when you go through a divorce or a breakup of any account, and there are children involved in this breakup, the children cannot become the pawn. They cannot become the pawn and the pieces on a chessboard, because you play a game with their lives.
Yeah.
You play a game with children's lives. And I'm sorry, but what makes someone, a human being, so experienced to do that? I'm going to come and ask you a question in a second based on that. But it goes both ways. I don't want this to be about just women acting in a certain way during divorces. Men can also act in a very malicious, vindictive way during a divorce, during a breakup. I've got two scenarios. I've got one that was a friend of mine years ago. He was, the mother walked out and said, here, He had to change his career. He had to learn on the job. He had to do all these different things. Suddenly, I think he had like a 2 and a 3 or 2 and a 4-year-old. And she just went. She just left. And I remember speaking to him and he was crying and I had to really pull him out of this place where she had just left and he was left with these 2 babies. He didn't know what to do. He had no idea what to do. She was the main sort of carer in the relationship up until that point. And then suddenly one day she just left. So he then raised those children for about 4 years, I think. He came back one day, went to pick them up from school and she'd taken them. So he then had this strong bond with his boys where she had left for 4 years, turned up at school and the boys had gone. And now he had to go to court to fight for those boys when she was the one that had said, here, have them. So women and men both get affected so greatly during these situations. Men can be vindictive, which makes women behave in a certain way. If we look at it from that angle in divorce, 90% of the time, it's the men are holding the purse strings, or not holding the purse strings, but the woman is going after the man for money. She wants more and more and more and more and more. So the greed element kicks in. When she doesn't get what she wants, the children get affected.
Yeah.
And the children become the pawn pieces. But now what happens is the money is still there, or it's been sorted, or it's going to get sorted, or whatever that situation is. 'Cause that's a separate. The reason the courts keep money and children very separate is because they are 2 separate situations to deal with. This is an adult situation. These are the kids. It's very, very separate. But when a woman or when a man then becomes vindictive, or when one partner still wants the other one, or whatever the dynamic is between those 2 adults, the kids get pulled in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And when those kids get pulled in the middle of it, that's not fair. No one has the right to make those choices for those children. First of all, life is really short, right? Life is not, we're not living for forever in this world. So you don't know how your health's going to be as the other parent moving forward. You have no idea. So if you now don't have the emotional backup of the other parent, because let's remember, we're thinking about the children here. We're thinking only about the children. What is right for the kids? What's the right thing? I might hate your guts, but what is the right move for the kids? Should they see their dad? Should they not see their dad? Should they see their mum? Should they not? What's going to happen to my child mentally if they don't have a relationship? Should I lie to my child? Because let me tell you something. If you lie to your child, it will come out. Do you not agree?
Yeah, no, for sure.
That will come out later on in life. If I had lied to Bella her whole life and I had said to her, no, your dad never wants to see you again, etc., etc., and he had been trying year on and year out and year on and year out to see her, then that lie is going to come out. In fact, let me tell you what I did with Bella's dad. Every single year up until I think she was about 16, 17, I sent a picture of her. Did you know I did that? Every single year. I said, this is Bella this year, 8. This is Bella at 9. This is Bella at 10. They all got ignored until you were there when I got a call. They all got ignored. But I, as a parent, felt that was my right thing to do. I felt comfortable with myself saying, this is how Bella's progressed over the last year. This is how she's progressed over this year. I felt that was the right thing to do. So as a parent, when you try and block out and you use your child as a pawn, one day that's going to come back on the parent. It will. It will come back on the parent. I also was raised, I have a stepfather who adopted me when I was young, and I had many questions about my biological dad, many questions. And it comes out in the end, and you find things out. Now, how you then choose to view your parent with the truth in your hand, be it on you, what happens at that stage. But do you not think that honesty has to be the best policy when it comes to the kids? I mean, how does it affect you? You're from being young until, put yourself out of your shoes and just think about your siblings and everything else, and, Elora and other situations. From the child, how are you affected by imagine if I was saying to you all the time, your dad's this, your dad's that, you can't, how would that have affected you?
I think I would be a very different person. I think I would be I would have a lot of hate in me, I think. Because I would have hatred towards him, but I don't have hatred towards him. I don't feel anything towards him. I don't feel sadness. I don't feel anything towards him. And I don't know why, because I haven't really sat down with myself and thought, oh, why don't I? Because I don't care. Generally, I don't care. And I'm a very good person at like disconnecting myself from my feelings, whether that's in a good way or a bad way. I'm very good at that. And I think that's just what's happened with this situation. I think it's definitely helped with you not slandering his name as I've grown up, because then I've never really had to think about him.
Right.
Because you've never really brought him up, because he's never tried to contact me. So why would you bring him up? The only time you really brought him up is when you've been thinking about it and you came to ask me, well, how do you feel about, your dad and how he's not in your life and blah, 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 blah. But I don't care. And I don't care about him because he doesn't have enough care in his heart to care about me. So why would I waste even a thought thinking about you?
Can I ask you a question? Because of the situation that you've grown up in, do you feel that has affected the way you view relationships with men? Because I'll tell you the reason why I'm asking that. Because on my part, one of the reasons why, the point that you noted about not speaking badly of the other person in a relationship, one of the things that I made sure that I would never do, right, is no matter how much I dislike her, as in the mother of my children, I would never say anything bad to the kids about her. And the reason why is because, first of all, I don't want them growing up with that, thinking all daddy ever did was say X, Y, and Z about mummy.
Definitely.
Right? That's number one. Number two, I've got a son and a daughter. I don't want my daughter's relationships with other women to be affected by what I've said to her about her mother. And more importantly, I don't want my son's relationship with women or his viewpoint of women to be affected by what his father has said about his mother.
Yeah.
I grew up in a household full of majority women, right? I grew up in a double parent household where I had the mum and the dad and they got along and whatever, but the majority of my household was females. So my viewpoint of females was affected by what I grew up in, not in a bad way or a good way, but it was just, that's my circumstance. But my thing towards my kids is I would never say anything bad about men or women or any particular person to them, because I don't want that in the future, because I can foresee that in the future, I don't want it to affect them in any given way. So again, coming back to you, right? So do you feel that pre-me or anything else as well, do you feel that circumstance in your life has shaped the way you view men or relationships?
I don't think it shaped the way I view men.
Okay.
Because over time I've built my own general perception of men from what I've seen through past relationships or whatnot. I think, well, like I said before, I think the only way that it's affected me is through what people call daddy issues. And my daddy issues not being that I need validation, because mum has given me validation. I've learned to give myself validation. But through, like I said before, being a quite controlling person, I'm owning up to that I am a very controlling person. And that's good and it's bad, because I then when I'm with someone, I almost try to control them and shape them into the person I want to be so they don't end up leaving. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I get that.
But realistically, you can't change people. You can't change people. People are inherently who they are. I just pick the bad ones because that's what we do. Like, we go for people so we can mother them or we can change them. But realistically, that never ends up very well. But I think that's what it's done. I think it's just made me a very controlling person. And that has made me a bit scared of rejection, which most of the world is. We're all scared of rejection, but I think that's what it's done for me. I think that's the impact that it's had on me. But I've figured that out as in my teenagers, as I've grown up, as I've had experience with guys, like, that's what I've had to figure out by myself. And I know that now. And I try to subside that and not be as controlling, but then I also haven't found someone that has allowed me to subside that, because that's a very masculine attribute. And I haven't found someone that has been, sounds bad, but been more masculine than me to be able to bring me into my feminine. I put myself with a very feminine, emotionally feminine guys.
Why?
Because you're in your masculinity.
Yeah. So I think
that's why.
And I think that's a bit overpowering for some guys, or for most guys. So which is probably why half of the relationships that I've had haven't worked out.
I see.
But then again, yes, that's my fault, and that's something I need to work on within myself. But then I need to find someone that levels me. So that, to answer your question, that's what it's done for me. It's maybe controlling, but...
No, that's fine. You're being honest.
But I'm fine with that, and I made peace with that, and I'm learning to control that.
So, okay, so leading on from that, so you said the type of man that you've been from before has been, you've had to mother them, and that it's been someone that you've been trying to control. Mm-hmm. Are you scared of being with someone who's in control, even though you know that that's what you should be going for?
Why should you be going for somebody that's in control?
Because, no, I'm not saying that she should be, but that's what you've just said. You'd prefer to go for someone who is a bit more masculine, mm-hmm. right? Are you afraid of going for that?
Yes, because I'm not afraid of going for it. That's just not what I don't know if it's about me being afraid. I think it's about me I just don't go for those people because I like to be in control, and I like to have control of what's going to happen next and what arguments we're going to have. I'm usually the one to make those arguments.
I don't think that's anything to do with not having a dad around. I think that's just to do with your personality that's developed in that way. Listen, there are situations where you've got, serious situations where parents can't be involved with their kids for a time being, be it drugs, be it alcohol, be it violence, whatever it might be. But I'm quite a strong believer that a relationship could be volatile with a man and a woman, for example, because they have a volatile relationship. It doesn't necessarily mean that the relationship would be volatile with the child. But saying that, there are your situations where a parent just shouldn't be around another parent. Like I said in the beginning, I pulled away from contact when 3 times in a row it's, not working. There's you don't turn up. And then I'm sending you messages. Do you want to see them? Do you want to see them? Do you want to see them? And I don't get it. It's going on deaf ears. So when you get to that situation, well, you're kind of telling me you don't want to see your child. So, okay, that's fine. At least I've got that information. Now I can move on and be the parent I need to be without slandering that other parent, because that is so detrimental to a child, to slander that other parent. It is so detrimental. Like, God, it's detrimental to slander another parent. And I don't think people understand the damage that they're doing. Now, we live in a court system, and I'll go back to the judge thing I just said. We live in a court system where the courts are unfair. They don't have the right information. I think half the time Kafkas are dinosaurs, and they are given this small bit of information in a small amount of time and made to make this picture to change people's lives. Social services, just don't get me started on them. I think they're just a waste of space. And I think that they really need to re-look at their policies and how they deal with children. The police, I think, are a bigger waste of space. I think that when there are children, and we've all seen it in the news, children are needing help. Kids have gone to school. I knew of the doctor's surgery that was in the Baby P case. The Baby P case, the doctor phoned up the doctor at the surgery where Baby P was registered, phoned social services and phoned the police on numerous of occasions and they got ignored. Then the child died. Who got blamed? The doctor's surgery for not reporting it. They reported it. On numerous occasions, they reported it. But we live in a useless country when it comes to social services and the police and protection of children. They pretend that they check the children, that there's a protection place in, but there is no protection in place at all. So when you are two parents and you're fighting and you're at loggerheads and you're relying on the courts, social services, CAFCAS, police, etc., you're relying on all of these things. Some of the time you're putting your kids more at risk. And I think that if you've got two parents that genuinely love each other and there aren't any other mitigating situations involved that, you know, are harm, etc., like I mentioned before, then you really need to try and navigate that situation when it comes to divorce and the children. The children are not getting divorced. The parents are getting divorced. The children are a product of a very happy at one point marriage, because you wouldn't have had the kids to begin with. So there was some happiness there. There was something there that you can hold on to that emotion just for the children's sake, so the children can be raised in a happy environment, even if it's a theatre show that you have to put on. Are your kids not worth putting on the theatre show? Like, surely the kids are worth the theatre show. They're worth putting on the pretend plants, the pretend flowers, the pretend balloons, so that they have a chance at living their life in a nice little bubble before reality kicks in and we realise how hard it is to navigate in this world. We could go on forever talking about.
I've got loads of questions that I want to ask about this, but yeah.
And I think this is part one of this, and I think we'll explore this again, and it'll be good to bring on other people that have been through similar experiences, be it fathers that aren't seeing their children, mothers that aren't seeing their children, kids that have been brought up in volatile environments. But I think it'll be really interesting to explore that, and, you know, to talk about this topic. And we also, I think it'd be great if somebody wanted to come on, they can, you know, give us a message and tell us you'd like to be part of this ongoing chat that's such a huge, big topic. And the more voices, the more people talk about it, then perhaps we can find, raise awareness and get some light at the end of the tunnel. And I don't know, we can try and change people's minds a little bit, but changing emotion and altering emotion is really tough. And you've got to get a grip of your own emotion when it comes to divorce, when there are children involved, because you come second, your kids come first. My children have always come first, and my children always know that. They are at the top of the list, and their emotional state has to be intact, because otherwise I failed as a parent. So just think about that a little bit. And I think, unless you guys have got anything else to say on the topic.
No.
Yeah. Okay. If you like any of our content, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time for more juicy gossip and information. Bye.